The sun was setting over the small town of Maplewood, casting a golden glow over the streets. The air was warm, carrying the faint scent of blooming lilacs and the distant hum of motorcycles. It was one of those evenings where everything felt calm, yet there was an unspoken tension in the air. Like the calm before a storm, the heart of Maplewood was a cozy diner called the Rusty Spoon. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, and the smell of freshly brewed coffee and sizzling bacon greeted you before you even stepped inside. The diner was a second home to many, a place where stories were shared, laughter echoed, and sometimes tears were shed. Behind the counter stood Emily, a 22-year-old waitress with a heart as big as her dreams. She had been working at the Rusty Spoon for 3 years, saving every penny to put herself through college. Emily was the kind of person who always had a smile on her face, even on her toughest days. Her co-workers admired her resilience, and the regulars adored her kindness. But beneath her cheerful exterior was a young woman who had faced more than her fair share of struggles. Emily grew up in a single-parent household, raised by her mother who worked 2 jobs to make ends meet. Money was always tight, and Emily had learned early on the value of hard work and humility. She dreamed of becoming a teacher, of inspiring young minds, and giving back to her community. But for now, she was here, serving pancakes and pouring coffee, one shift at a time. On this particular evening, the diner was bustling with its usual crowd. A group of elderly men sat in the corner, debating the latest baseball game. A young couple giggled over shared milkshakes, and a tired trucker sipped his coffee in silence. Emily moved gracefully between the tables, refilling cups and taking orders with her trademark smile. But the peace was about to be shattered. The bell above the diner door jingled, and in walked a man who immediately drew everyone's attention. He was tall, with a muscular build, clad in a leather jacket adorned with patches that screamed rebellion. His boots thudded heavily against the floor, and his presence seemed to suck the air out of the room. This was Jake, the leader of a local biker gang known as the Iron Stallions. Jake had a reputation in Maplewood, a bad one. He was the kind of man who thrived on intimidation, who enjoyed the power he held over others. His gang was feared, not just for their rough exterior, but for the chaos they often brought with them. Jake's eyes scanned the diner, landing on Emily as she approached with a menu. "Welcome to the Rusty Spoon," she said, her voice steady despite the unease she felt. "What can I get for you today?" Jake smirked, his gaze lingering on her. "Name tag. Emily, huh? Cute name for a cute girl." Emily forced a smile, her instincts telling her to tread carefully. "Thank you. Can I start you off with something to drink?" Jake leaned back in his seat, his tone dripping with condescension. "How about you bring me a coffee, sweetheart? And make it quick. I don't like waiting." The tension in the room was palpable. The other customers exchanged uneasy glances, but no one dared to intervene. Emily nodded and hurried to the kitchen, her heart pounding. She had dealt with difficult customers before, but something about Jake felt different. Dangerous. Asterisk as she poured the coffee, her hands trembled slightly. She took a deep breath, reminding herself to stay calm. She couldn't afford to lose her job, not when she was so close to her goals. But deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that this night was about to take a turn for the worse. Little did she know, her life was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. Emily returned to Jake's table, carefully setting the coffee down in front of him. "Here you go. Let me know if you need anything else." Jake took a sip, his face twisting into a scowl. "This is cold," he snapped, slamming the cup back onto the table. Coffee sloshed over the edges, staining the pristine white tablecloth. Emily's eyes widened. "I'm so sorry, sir. Let me get you a fresh cup. You think I have time for this?" Jake interrupted, his voice rising. "What kind of dump is this, anyway? Can't even get a decent cup of coffee?" The diner fell silent, all eyes now fixed on the unfolding scene. Emily felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment, but she kept her composure. "I apologize, sir. I'll make sure your next cup is perfect." But Jake wasn't done. He stood up, towering over her, his presence suffocating. "You know what your problem is," he sneered. "You're just a nobody. A little girl playing waitress, thinking she's something special. But you're nothing. You hear me? Nothing. Emily's heart shattered. His words cut deeper than any knife, reopening old wounds she had tried so hard to heal. She wanted to defend herself, to tell him he was wrong, but the words caught in her throat. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she blinked them away, refusing to let him see her cry. The other customers shifted uncomfortably, but still, no one spoke up. The fear of Jake's retaliation kept them rooted in their seats. Just as Jake was about to continue his tirade, the bell above the door jingled again. All heads turned as a new figure stepped inside. It was John Cena. Yes, the John Cena, wrestler, actor, and philanthropist. He was in town for a charity event and had decided to grab a bite to eat at the local diner. Dressed casually in a hoodie and jeans, he looked every bit the humble hero he was known to be. The atmosphere in the diner shifted instantly. Whispers broke out among the customers, but John paid no mind. His eyes scanned the room, landing on Jake and Emily. He could sense the tension, the fear, the injustice. Without a word, John walked over to the table, his presence commanding yet calm. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, his voice steady, but firm. Jake turned to face him, his bravado faltering for a moment. "This doesn't concern you," he said, though his tone lacked its earlier confidence. John glanced at Emily, who was still standing frozen, her hands clutching the coffee pot like a lifeline. He could see the pain in her eyes, the silent plea for help. "It concerns me when someone is being treated unfairly," John said, his gaze locking onto Jake's. "Now, why don't you sit down and let this young lady do her job?" Jake's face flushed with anger. "Who do you think you are, telling me what to do?" John didn't flinch. "I'm someone who believes in respect, and right now, you're showing a serious lack of it." The diner held its breath. No one had ever stood up to Jake like this before. Even Emily was in shock, her mind racing as she tried to process what was happening. Jake took a step closer to John, his fists clenched. "You're making a big mistake, buddy." John remained calm, his expression unreadable. "The only mistake here is yours. Now, I suggest you leave, before this escalates." For a moment, it seemed like Jake might actually back down. But then, with a growl of frustration, he swung his fist at John. What happened next was a blur. John dodged the punch with ease, his reflexes honed from years in the ring. In one swift motion, he disarmed Jake, twisting his arm behind his back and pinning him to the table. The coffee cup toppled over, spilling its contents across the floor. "Let me go," Jake shouted, struggling against John's grip. "Not until you apologize," John said firmly. The diner erupted into murmurs of awe and relief. Emily stood frozen, her heart racing as she watched the scene unfold. Jake, realizing he was outmatched, finally relented. "Fine. I'm sorry. Okay?" John released him, stepping back but keeping a watchful eye. "Now, get out of here. And don't let me catch you causing trouble again." Jake shot one last glare at Emily before storming out of the diner, door slamming shut behind him. The room erupted into applause, but John simply nodded, his focus now on Emily. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. Emily nodded, still in shock. I think so. Thank you." John smiled, his presence instantly putting her at ease. "You don't have to thank me. No one deserves to be treated like that." Asterisk as the adrenaline began to fade, Emily felt a wave of emotions crash over her. Relief, gratitude, but also a newfound sense of strength. For the first time in a long time, she felt seen, valued. But little did she know, this was only the beginning. The next few days were a whirlwind for Emily. News of the incident spread quickly through Maplewood, and soon, the story of John Cena standing up to Jake at the Rusty Spoon was the talk of the town. Emily found herself at the center of attention, something she wasn't entirely comfortable with. Strangers approached her on the street, asking for details about what had happened. Some praised her for her bravery, while others expressed concern for her safety. But amidst the chaos, something unexpected happened. John Cena returned to the diner. This time, he wasn't alone. He brought with him a film crew, explaining that He wanted to share Emily's story with the world. "Your courage inspired me," he told her, "and I think it will inspire others too." Emily was hesitant at first. She had never been one to seek the spotlight, and the idea of sharing her personal struggles with strangers was daunting. But John reassured her, promising that her story could make a difference. Reluctantly, Emily agreed. The interview was emotional, to say the least. Emily opened up about her life, her dreams, and the challenges she had faced. She spoke about the incident with Jake, but more importantly, she talked about the lessons she had learned, about resilience, kindness, and the power of standing up for oneself. When the video was released, it went viral overnight. Millions of people watched Emily's story, moved by her honesty and strength. Messages of support poured in from all over the world, and donations began flooding in to help her achieve her dream of becoming a teacher. But not everyone was happy. Jake, humiliated by the incident and furious at the attention Emily was receiving, began plotting his revenge. He saw her newfound fame as a personal attack, a threat to his reputation. One evening, as Emily was closing up the diner, she heard the roar of motorcycles outside. Her heart sank as she recognized the sound. She locked the doors, her hands trembling, as she reached for her phone. But before she could call for help, the glass door shattered. Jake and his gang stormed in, their faces twisted with anger. "You think you're so special, don't you?" Jake snarled, advancing toward her. Emily backed away, her mind racing. She knew she had to stay calm, to think clearly, but fear threatened to overwhelm her. Just as Jake was about to grab her, a voice rang out, "Leave her alone." It was John Cena. He had been in town for a follow-up interview and had decided to check on Emily. Now, he stood in the doorway, his presence as commanding as ever. Jake turned, his face pale with shock. "You!" John didn't waste any time. He charged at Jake, tackling him to the ground. The other bikers hesitated, unsure of what to do. "Call the police," John shouted to Emily, who quickly dialed 911. The next few minutes were a blur of chaos. John fought off Jake and his gang with the skill of a seasoned wrestler, but it wasn't easy. By the time the police arrived, the diner was in shambles, and Jake was handcuffed. His reign of terror finally over, as the dust settled. Emily felt a mix of emotions: relief, gratitude, but also a deep sense of exhaustion. She had been through so much, but she had come out stronger on the other side. John approached her, his face filled with concern. "Are you okay?" Emily nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you for everything." John smiled, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You're stronger than you think, Emily. Never forget that." In the weeks that followed, life in Maplewood began to return to normal. Jake and his gang were arrested, and the town breathed a collective sigh of relief. Emily's story continued to inspire people around the world. She used the donations she received to enroll in college, finally pursuing her dream of becoming a teacher. She also became an advocate for kindness and resilience, sharing her story at schools and community events. John Cena stayed in touch, becoming a mentor and friend to Emily. He often reminded her of the strength she had shown, encouraging her to keep pushing forward. As for the rusty spoon, it became a symbol of hope and community. People from all over came to visit the diner, not just for the food, but for the story it represented. One evening, as Emily stood behind the counter, she reflected on everything that had happened. She had faced fear, humiliation, and danger, but she had also found courage, support, and a renewed sense of purpose. She realized that life was full of twists and turns, but it was how we responded to them that defined us. She had learned that even in the darkest moments, there was always a glimmer of hope, a chance to rise above and make a difference. As she looked out at the bustling diner, filled with laughter and warmth, Emily smiled. She had come a long way, but she knew her journey was just beginning. And so, with a heart full of gratitude and a spirit unbroken, she stepped forward into the future, ready to inspire others with her story of resilience, kindness, and the power of standing up for what's right. If this story inspired you or gave you chills, don't keep it to yourself, share it with your friends and family. And hey, if you want more powerful and emotional stories like this one, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. We'd also love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below about this story. And if you enjoyed this story, give it a big thumbs up. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that touch hearts and inspire change. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next story.